right, welcome to Talk Show number 38, June 25th, 2006. This is Spider Bite, your host. Quick apology for those who tuned in a little bit earlier today. We had a couple technical difficulties. We got it all worked out, so we're back. I do want to have my guests introduce themselves one more time this afternoon, and then we'll get back into the show. We didn't get too far in before we realized what was going on, so everything should be great. For those of you now listening, let me go ahead and introduce my first special guest, Viceroy from the MMOGradio.com network, and that way he can tell us a little bit about himself, what chart he plays on, what he's doing these days over at MMOGradio.com. Go ahead, Vice.
Yeah, it's great to be here again after a long hiatus and everything, and yeah, it's definitely kind of weird saying repeating yourself twice, but hey, it's for the fans out there, and I am from the Chesapeake Shard, and I play on Chesapeake, and I've been working my butt off over here, on MMOGradio.com, and SecondLifeRadio.com, and Radio Wow, trying to get those up and expand the network, service all these other online games, and so definitely be keeping an eye out on those games over there and everything, because I think you'll be quite interested in what you see. You'll definitely want to tune in if you play those games over there, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Not much to see over there as of right now, but hopefully in the next month or so we'll have something going, full steam ahead over there. So with that said, back to you, Spider.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. Sounds like some great plans in the works so far. Servicing a couple more games now. And I'm sure if we have some time today, we'll go ahead and get into more depth about what's going on, what your plans are for that. In the meantime, Trollman, let me have you introduce yourself again real quick.
All right, yes, this is DJ Trollman on UORadio. I play on the Catskill Shard in the Red Knight Guild, and I'm on in the afternoon, so that's pretty much basically me and my wife play UO, and we're pretty new at it. Other than that, well, that's pretty much all about me.
Okay, go ahead, Spawn Man. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I've been playing UO for like 2 years. Got into it from a shard called Obsidian Shard. That's the one I'm still playing now. Yeah, that's basically I got into UO, and recently I found out about UO Radio. It's pretty cool, so yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, we're glad to have you guys with us today. Going to jump right into the first subject. For those of us here on the show, we're jumping into it again. Luckily, we only got a couple of comments, so it won't be too much deja vu. Punkbuster, the hottest issue right now. People are just completely either overjoyed or completely up in arms, angry about it. For example, I've gone out and I decided to do some research before getting too concerned about a piece of software that they'd be putting on my computer. And that's just like any piece of software that I'm going to buy. I will go research it first, and basically I'll look at reviews. In this case, what I did is I went to other game sites and gaming forums, whether they were the official forums or not, and looked for feedback on how's this Punkbuster affecting your gameplay. I looked specifically for things like, have there been any noted cases of problems with spyware? Has anybody's personal information been at risk yet? I didn't see one. I didn't see a single person say that they currently had any problems with Punkbuster. So I'm undecided, to be honest. And my concerns are with something completely different about Punkbuster, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Vice, go ahead and tell us what you think about the whole thing and your concerns.
Well, I'll say again, but this is my whole thoughts on the whole Punkbuster and everything. I was actually kind of surprised by the fact that they were using Punkbuster for Ultima Online, because typically Punkbuster is used in first-person shooter games, not MMOGs. So if anything, Pump Buster is going to be going to be applied to the first MMOG that I've ever known of it being applied to, and so this will probably be the first MMOG in which Pump Buster actually gets applied to. So how well will it work for an MMOG such as Ultima Online is yet to remain to be seen. My concerns is effectiveness. Just how good is it going to be? Because I mean it's ultimately designed for first-person shooter games and not typically MMOGs, and that's where my concern comes in. And I was actually kind of surprised that they chose Pump Buster because you look at games like World of Warcraft, they have a program running on their machines and everything called the Warden, whereas over here in Ultima Online and everything you don't have that. You're using Pump Buster, which is typically as I say again, first-person shooter games. So it's very fascinating in itself that they chose that program. And speaking of which, it's no surprise that they decided to use a anti-cheat program. This whole anti-cheat program is no surprise to me because if you guys remember, if you was here with us about about almost a year ago, September 2nd, 2005, when we interviewed Mr. Tact, or if you download the interview and listen to the 2.5 interview, you would have heard in there somewhere that Mr. Tact was considering the possibility of using Pump Buster or something similar to it for Ultima Online in the future to address scripters and stuff like that. So that revelation, that desire of his has come to light now, and it's actually become something that we can look forward to in the future for Ultima Online. When he had mentioned that during the interview, I wasn't quite expecting, him to actually go out and use Pump Buster. I was thinking something similar to it. Another concern of mine is the fact that, Pump Buster is basically being developed by a third party and not by EA itself. So, I think there's basically this, something that could be dealt with internally is now being outsourced to a third party. So if there's any problems that arise from the usage of Pump Buster, well then you have to go through a third party, and then you're at the mercy of them, to resolve the issue or correct the issue if there is any. As far as privacy issues go, personal information, financial information, and all that other stuff, I haven't heard of anybody yet having a case of privacy issues with Pump Buster that played first-person shooter games. I know I played a ton of first-person shooter games and a bunch of other things, so I've never had any issues with Pump Buster, so I don't suspect that I'll have any privacy issues with, playing with Ultima Online with the Pump Buster or not. So, it's just something that people are kicking their feet and screaming about for no reason at all. I mean, if you play Battlefield 2, you play Soldier of Fortune 2, I mean, there's a ton of games out there that use Pump Buster. And I so happen to have played Battlefield 2, Soldier of Fortune 2, and a bunch of other online games that do use this program, Pump Buster. So I've never had anything to worry about. I've actually been thankful for it because it actually eliminates those who will otherwise cheat in an online game to get an unfair advantage. And so I appreciate Pump Buster very much. And quite personally, I think anybody that's citing privacy issues either has kiddie porn on their computer that they're worried about, or they're worried about, their scripts being detected and everything. So those are the only two things I can possibly even imagine that anybody would have any firm objections to, unless they just like to be, devil's advocate, just against everything. I'll turn it back to you, Spider.
Yeah, I had the same concerns you did until I researched it and everything like that. And you're right. And Mr. Luigi brings up a point here in the IRC chat that EA has it on all the other on EA Online games. So that was something that I was not aware of. Even in my research, I didn't see that EA has it on all their other games. And he also makes a good point. He corrects me because I had stated installing something on my computer. In other words, what I meant was another program inspecting my computer. The Punkbusters sits on the servers over at EA. It won't sit on your resident on your computer. But anyway, Spawn, what are your thoughts on this?
Basically, I've just researched a little bit on Punkbuster because I have really not heard much of it. It's why would they have one server that doesn't have it? Like, now all the cheaters are going to be there, and everyone who's paranoid about spyware and crap will have to deal with all those cheaters. I think it's kind of unfair gameplay.
Yeah, thanks. I have the same issues with it 100%. You better believe it, especially with Darkscribe leaning towards making Siege or Mungeon or both of them the non or the PB free shards, because then these scripters and cheaters, especially the cheaters who cheat in PvP, because scripting doesn't really affect me too much personally. But it will if they create a non-PB shard and make that Siege, because that's where I play, and I know that myself and everybody else who is heavy into PvP, we're going to have to deal with the people who run the speeder XP or whatever. We're going to have to deal with the people who do speed hacks and the all the hacks that are out there for PvP. It's going to unbalance our whole gameplay style. In addition, it's going to ruin the economy, because now you got these people, they're going to allow character transfers to it, and that's something we've benevolently fought for a long time now, since Siege was created. No character transfers. We don't want people going to production shards, making millions, and then bringing it all over to Siege and ruining our community and our economy. So, not to mention they're going to have all the stuff they're going to come over with. I mean, anyways, it's going to flood Siege, and it's going to tear up an existing community, which, who knows, with some of with the lack of attention Siege has gotten in the past. Perhaps with that, this is two birds with one stone. Will snuff out the voiceful Siege perilous people and get rid of the cheaters and scammers at the same time. I don't know. Vice, you were next. Go ahead.
Well, that's very interesting that you mentioned Siege Perilous, because, there's been something I've been wondering about. That is, if they actually do decide to go and make the non-Punkbuster shard Siege Perilous, then you have to wonder, are they going to do the same for Mugen or Mugen, or whatever they call that Japanese Siege Perilous shard? Now, because to my knowledge, Punkbuster is not coded or have any Japanese characteristics in it to where anybody who was to use Punkbuster would know how to use it. So I'm kind of wondering if Punkbuster is going to be applied to the Japanese shards as well, or if the Japanese shards are going to be excluded from this, because I mean, you're talking about a whole entire language difference, and I'm not sure if Punkbuster supports the Japanese language. So I'll be interested to see, whether or not they are included on that, because from what I've noticed is that the Japanese community seems to get different types of treatment in terms, for example, they all the decor items that you see coming out as of late are typically ideally geared towards the Japanese community. It has been like that for some time now. The last two sets that I know of have been purely geared towards the Japanese community, and I think that's going to be a trend that continues because I think they're strongly focusing on the Japanese market right now. They make up more than half the player base, and but get back to Punkbuster and everything, I can understand why they would possibly be considering Siege Perilous, because of the fact that, it's self-governed by the players for the most part, where players are able to deal things like player justice, and there ain't really no safe place to hide and script and everything, and, pretty much everywhere you go on Siege Perilous is a danger zone for the most part, unless, of course, you're doing it in town or something like that. And then you might have a, exception to that rule. However, you can actually deal player justice anywhere in Siege Perilous, and same thing with Mugen. So, I'm just curious, because if they do it for Siege Perilous, they're going to have to do it for Mugen as well, the Japanese shard, which has the Siege Perilous rule set on it. So, yeah, but anyways, other than that, I really, here's another possibility. I'm just reading the IRC chat, that's why I'm kind of slowing down here. But, another scenario is that they could, in essence, claim that the test center is going to be the non-pump buster shard. But what I have a problem with is at the avocation or advocating the continuous use of cheat programs on a particular shard, because while that might be good for some of the players out there, and while they may rejoice over that kind of stuff, it's not exactly something that you want to say, well, it's okay over here, but it's not over here, because I guarantee you, later on down the road, they're going to be developing more sophisticated programs, which is not recognized by Pump Buster, which is then going to be used on these shards with the Pump Buster enabled on it, and then, they're going to be under the misconception that, hey, they can cheat on any shard rather than just this one shard. So that's a concern of mine, is advocating and saying it's okay to cheat over here, over on this shard, as long as you keep it over on this shard. I'm not cool with that. And as far as the concern about the possibility of people transferring over to Siege Paris, yeah, it would destroy the community and the economy over there if that was to happen. And also, I can already see people basically transferring over to Siege Perilous just to get by the, I think it's called the ROT, skill factor, skill building, because it takes a lot longer to build your skills on in Siege Perilous. So why not just go to production shards for the mere sake of developing a character much faster and then transferring them over to Siege? You know why they would possibly consider that route? Because it would be a revenue generator to have people go to production shards and transfer over to Siege Perilous. That would be an extra revenue generated for Electronic Arts. So if they end up doing that, that will probably be their number one motive for doing so. Now, whether it happens or not, we don't know. So I'm just purely speculating. I'm not saying that it will happen, but I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, thanks. Like you mentioned, the scripting does not really concern me too much with scripters coming over to Siege, because like you said, we have a way of dealing with them. It's the hacking, like the speed hacks that are out there and stuff, that just scared of you-know-what out of me right now. PvP's tough as it is with the current system. You got people streaming around you at 400 miles an hour, and with whatever other hacks are out there to make it imbalancing. That's where I and a lot of my fellow Siege people are concerned, really. PvP will be ruined on the shard, basically, unless we cheat too, and most of us over there do not advocate it, and just don't need it. But anyways, Trollman, let me give you a chance to talk.
Okay, well, sorry about that. The way I feel about this Punk Buster stuff is like I said, I'm new at the game, and it's like, me personally, I have to go out and work at getting everything that I get from this game. If I have to go out and, like, mine or whatnot. I'm sorry, guys, I gotta take care of something here.
No problem, thanks, Trollman. I think I know where he was going with that. Yeah, to be able to, in the current state of the game is, and this is the whole reason Punk Buster is being brought in, is, people have to go out, farm their own resources. And the people who are doing it fairly are getting really cheated right now in the game. And, it's really unfair. I have two or three friends that are brokers, for example, and they really bust their hump daily to gather resources to sell on various shards and stuff like that. They don't script, but the scripters are basically putting them right out of business. So I'm looking forward to Punk Buster for that aspect alone. As far as Devil's Island or whatever they're going to call it, all I can say, Darkstripe just keeps saying it over and over again that it's probably going to be something like Siege or whatever. We haven't made up our mind yet. Yes, transfers will be available to this particular shard, he stated. So that aspect of it is the only thing that concerns me. I'm not worried about privacy. I don't have anything on my computer that I'm afraid of being compromised. I do have friends on Siege who are a little concerned about privacy because they run their home businesses off the same computer, but that's something that maybe you need to look into, encrypting their files or something. But other than that, Vice, go ahead.
Well, here's a interesting thing, because I was reading the 5 on Friday, which was released on this June 23rd, 2006, which is 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken. And this is what the question asks. It says, you said that a possible Devil's Island shard might allow scripting. What about other cheap programs? Does that mean it would be a free-for-all shard with no rules? And Mr. Tack responds by saying, we have considered making it a complete anarchy, no restrictions against running any kind of third-party programs, and possibly limited or no TOS enforcement. However, we haven't made any firm decisions yet. And so, if they, create this Devil's Island, or let's say they make Devil's Island Siege Perilous, that basically means everybody's out for themselves. No enforcement. That means, what that basically means, no TOS enforcement, I would imagine means you can go around cursing all day long and pretty much talk all the crap you want with absolute no language barrier or language control or anything. So, you can basically go around and be racial and everything else, if it's no TOS enforcement or limited, because, if it's limited, that means GMs are going to have a very low presence on a shard such as that. So, I mean, that kind of has a little bit of concern for me, because, that will, in essence, basically, and what really catches my attention about that one is anarchy. Is Siege Perilous not a shard full of anarchy already? So, I mean, technically, it is considered a state of anarchy. And so, that makes me wonder, are they really looking at Siege Perilous as the Devil's Island shard? Because, I mean, you do have a bunch of Reds running around there and everything. So, anyways, back to you, Spider.
Yep, now you can see where the terror is. I don't know how many people out there have ever been to the test center, especially peak hours of the night. It is almost sickening. There are a bunch of people on that shard that play it like it's a production shard. It's their full-time shard, regardless of the wipes that it gets, stuff like that. And you go over there and you have to go find a spot somewhere far, far away from everybody. Otherwise, you are nothing but harassed with these like you said, racial names. And, I mean, it's just, I have pictures of this running rampant on my shard of Siege. And so does everybody else that plays with me over there. I get a knot in my throat when I think about it, because it's going to just devastate us. And for those of us, like you said, it's not quite anarchy on Siege. We have a good community. We have crafters. We have everything that all the other shards have. But we have a really strong community. Everybody knows who everybody else is, or they know of them. We have these people are like family. Even if they hate each other, they're still part of it. They hate each other like brothers and sisters, so to speak. And by introducing 1,000 people they're coming over with, all their hack programs and stuff, those of us who PvP daily, on a daily basis, are just going to be, we're going to have nowhere to go. We won't be able to compete because we won't want to hack. And it'll be a matter of competition of who can get the best hack the fastest. And it's going to devastate Siege. And I can see it already. And like you said, Mr. Tack says, yes, there will be character transfers. We'll provide a way for players to transfer their characters in order to play on the Punkbuster enabled or disabled rule set, meaning character transfers to or from Siege Perilous. And what choice does a Siege player have? We go back and we get punished by being stuck on Feluca and can't go to the other landmasses that we've enjoyed, whether we've been a red or blue character. Just so they can, toss these people off onto Devil's Island and get rid of them, they're throwing them on us. So that's where I'm at. Go ahead, Vice.
Well, the funny thing about that is, let me correct you on that. First of all, he never did say allow people to come off Devil's Island, and I think it was Dartscribe that was suggesting that they would possibly allow character transfers to, but not from. So, in other words, if you're disgusted with Siege Perilous, if they should decide to make Siege Perilous Devil's Island, well then you're in essence screwed because there ain't nowhere for you to go to get away from all the cheating that will possibly take place should this happen. Should Devil's Island be Siege Perilous? But then again, what about the possibility of Devil's Island being a whole new shard? How many people, and I'm going to ask this to the people over here in the IRC, how many people would actually love to go out and play on such a shard called Devil's Island? Would you go play, and I want the folks over here in the IRC channel to answer this question. Would you, for one, go over and play on Devil's Island? Now, getting back to my whole discussion here, I'm kind of curious, why would they want to have such a shard round? Now, the thought that comes to mind as to why they would want to have a non-pump buster shard is not so much for the fact they want to give people an option to cheat. I think they might want to have it so they can keep an eye on what kind of new cheats are coming out and so forth. Now, this would actually be a great way to keep an eye and study what are some of the newest and latest cheats out there and how can we combat it. Now, if you have such a shard that, players and cheaters are actually playing on that are using these new cheats and everything else, well, then you're going to be able to be aware of such new cheats and so forth. So that's my line of thought as to why they would even have such a shard in the first place. Does that make any sense to the folks out there? Back to you.
Yeah, Luigi was just making a comment in the IRC about it, stating his feelings are there will not be Siege only because they will never allow character transfers on or off. Because if they did, they're doing that to the shard, which has an average of 3 to 5 accounts per person. And that would just be bad for business, and I agree with him there. That makes good sense. As far as the transfers go, it looks like the way I was reading Mr. Tax was wrong. It says they will offer transfer of some sort. But then he goes on to say there are obvious complications with that scenario involving Siege or Mugen. So, yeah, we'll have to see. They've made decisions that have really confused me in the past, so you never know what could happen. What else did somebody else have to say over here in the IRC chat while you're asking about that?
Well, if I may, can I read a few ICQ messages
Go ahead.
I got in here from some of the listeners out there? First of all, let's see, some of the listeners are sending me ICQ messages about, how they basically, disapprove of the fact that, they're basically allowing the use of third-party programs. For example, Mayor Winfield of Paxlayer over here from Chesapeake, he's basically saying he doesn't think, Ultima Online should be allowing the use of third-party programs. He thinks there ought to be, a clear across-the-board rule that says, hey, no cheating, period. And so I'm kind of curious as to, bottom line, if you're legal, just worry about, performance issues. Keep all your finance and personal information and personally blocked by firewall and rules and privacy, and stuff like that. So, it's just real interesting because a lot of people have different authorized third-party programs, however, he says is okay. For example, like UO Assist and stuff like that. Those kind of programs would be fine by him. But if you're using unauthorized third-party programs, then you should be banned. And I have to agree with him. Why would you want to play on a shard, that allows cheating? I mean, I don't personally see any point in cheating. I mean, you win a battle because of cheat, and you're like, okay. So, I mean, where's the sense of accomplishment whenever you beat somebody using a cheat? I don't get nothing out of it. I personally don't, and I don't see how anybody else can. So, back to you, Spider.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly my whole feeling about it. I don't cheat, never have. I'm bad enough in PvP as it is. But now, for example, there's a huge tournament on Siege tonight that I go to every single week and participate in every week. I get my butt kicked at every week. Now, if something like that happened to Siege, for example, I wouldn't even go anymore. What would be the point? I'd get smacked down before I even saw the guy move off across the arena at me. So, no, just say no to that. Trollman, go ahead.
I think he forgot to turn it off. Spawn, did you have a comment that you wanted to say?
I would say either Punk Buster all the shards or not any of them at all. If they're not going to use Punk Buster on Siege, they should probably hand out a hack to everyone on Siege plays, so everyone's fair game.
I don't know if I like that idea either. I like the idea of putting Punk Buster on every shard, period. If you and like the gentleman in your ICQ said, Vice, if you're going to cheat, you're going to be banned, period. Don't make exceptions. I think the problem that EA is having with it is that in the terms of service with Punk Buster, they're required to have one non-Punk Buster shard. And that's... I like your idea more and more, even though I've been anti-new shard of any sort, whether it's a pre-Renaissance, whatever, since day one, only because my shard does not get enough attention as it is. Without them starting a whole new one and dumping resources into that as well. But the alternative of having a Punk Buster, I can't talk today, Punk Buster shard, and having it be Siege scares the what out of me. Go ahead, Trollman. All right. Well, like I was saying earlier, it's like, yeah, if the person who's new at the game, they want to go out and buy these third-party programs to bring it in. It's like, what's the sense of that? I mean, I got into the game because, hey, it's something. I want to go out here. I want to try to do this. I want to build up a character, have him become whatever he can become, and I want to go and have fun. But if I'm going to go out there and basically get my butt kicked every time I turn on my machine, what's the fun of that? Yeah, I still manage to get my butt kicked every time I turn on my machine, but that's only because I'm very bad at PvP. But I enjoy it. I just like the idea that somebody who is kicking my butt over on Siege, for example, is doing it on a level playground or playing field. I don't want to be, like I said earlier in my example, I don't need to be, it's bad enough that I have people running after me, and, or I've got to chase them halfway across the continent, and I can never catch them because they are currently running a speeder hack. But now if everybody's doing it, who I'm fighting, only because they need to keep the level playing field with everybody else, this game's going to bite for me, for lack of better words. Viceroy, go ahead.
Well, I don't know what's the point of, playing on such a shard where everybody cheats. I mean, if you're going to have to chase after everybody, that's using these cheats, I don't imagine how much fun that could possibly be, even if you have the same cheats as they do. Personally, I don't like the idea of advocating any cheats. But what's interesting is whether or not, because Pump Buster typically used for these 3D first-person shooter games. So I have to wonder, is Ultima, and now that Pump Buster is going to basically raise the minimum requirement in which a PC might have to have in order to run it. I'm kind of wondering, does this mean we might as well just go ahead and make the whole game of Ultima Online a full 3D world now? I mean, why not? I mean, we're going up the specs on the minimum specs in which you must have in order to run Pump Buster beside UO. So why not just go full 3D, baby?
You're just scaring me more and more. I don't want that either. No. I'm looking forward to the beta test in July. That's for sure. We'll get a lot of these questions answered, as that comes around. I think the only other issue that I had noticed on some of the other game forums that use Punk Buster was there were some people with older systems or running older versions of Windows or a combination of the two who were experiencing lag and lost packets after Punk Buster was introduced to their game. And that, again, they've pretty much stated that it's not going to be an issue. The only way anybody will know is during beta test, I suppose. That's my last concern about it. Other than that, I say go for it, but put it on all the shards. Viceroy, go ahead.
Well, here's another thing. Mr. Luigi over here in the IRC is basically saying most people are missing the point of the Pump Buster shard, and a lot of people want to use the cheat program in order to make their lives easier. And I'll say one thing about this cheat program that makes your lives a lot easier is that a lot of people who use this program don't want to go out and pay the $15 for a UO assist, which is legal. That is one reason a lot of people use this cheat program. It's $15, I think it is. And second of all, people who play on a shard that allows this cheat to occur is in essence saying to hell with the economy. So I guarantee you, if you decide to play on this shard with these cheat programs, you ain't going to have much of a... Well, you might have to cheat a lot more than you think, because, the economy is just going to go to absolute crap on this cheat shard, because there's going to be so many people out there scripting away, for all these, spawns and everything, and that, gold is just going to flood into that shard. You talk about flooding, and you just watch out. Let me just put it this way: just watch how fast that shard's economy goes to absolute crap, to where you're up in the millions, and I do mean millions, upper millions, in a heartbeat. Just watch. Give me a year, guarantee you'll have to have 125 million just to purchase a house. Because I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if that was the case.
Yeah, it's bad enough. It's going that direction as it is. I was reading a post this morning about somebody asking for the caps on the vendors' maximum prices to be raised, so that they could sell things worth 200 million or more on their vendor securely. And I almost spit my coffee on my screen when I saw that. I'm like, I'm sitting here gathering change in my bank box so that I can get my 10K for the tournament tonight, entry fee, and here's these people complaining because the checks aren't big enough, or they can't put a 200 million gold priced item on their vendor, and I just about wanted to cry. I'm like, I don't think I've ever even seen 200 million in my entire UO career. Even on the production shards, I was jazzed when I hit the million gold mark, and that never lasted too long. I blow that in an auction in an evening. So, yeah, we got a lot of good questions to be answered as this gets closer and closer. Did you guys have any other comments on Punk Bust before we move on to the next subject? Go ahead, Vice.
Well, you know what would be really interesting is if we had the developers over here to actually discuss with us. You know
Go ahead, Vice.
what discuss with us exactly. And can you hear me, by the way?
Did I lose you there?
No, can you hear me? Oh, okay. I guess not.
Okay. Well, our next topic.
Weird. Yeah. All right, so let me just go ahead and finish what I was saying then. That's weird. He didn't even hear me. But anyways, but to basically say it would be nice to have the developers over here if we could actually talk about, it's a good thing. It'd be nice if we could actually get the developers over here, and I think he can hear me now, right? He got disconnected.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, I was wondering why you couldn't. I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. It's like, huh? It's kind of like playing radio tag or something. But anyways, yeah, it would be nice if we could get the developers over here to actually talk more about, Punk Buster and actually answer players' questions as it comes in over here in the IRC chat and stuff like that. It would be nice to have a open dialogue like that. But speaking of which, I think this Wednesday, now that I think about it, this Wednesday, I think that's the 28th or something like that. I think we are going to be having a Stratix HOC, House of Commons, in which is going to be general discussion. And I'm sure the question a lot of people are going to be asking is a lot about Punk Buster. So be sure to be there. I think you can even read up about it on Stratix. So I definitely am going to be looking in to see how many people show up for that. I think it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to be keeping my eye on that, that's for sure, because there's a lot of good stuff going on. Hopefully they don't exhaust their entire HOC on Punk Buster. There are several other things that they should be discussing as well. Pub 41, I think it was yesterday, went on Origin. That's the next thing I wanted to talk about. I was reading through it, and I looked at it, and I blinked, and I looked again, and went, what happened to all the PvP fixes that were supposed to be implemented into this huge PvP fix publish? There isn't a single one. We got personal attendance. That's what Pub 41 is. Where did that come from? I haven't even heard about personal attendance until just like a week ago. And you got all of us people who PvP and we're looking for some balance brought to the game. They pulled proficiencies out early on in the game because of all the whining crying over on the U-Haul. That was bad enough because we didn't even get to try them. But now, there's nothing in there for PvP. It's like they just dropped the ball and said, yeah, we're just going to leave it alone. PvP's fine the way it is. Viceroy, what are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you were surprised as I was to see that.
I actually was surprised to see the attendance because they had made no mention or any indication that something like this was going to be coming down the road. But I'll tell you exactly why we didn't know anything about it. I'll tell you, and this is just my theory. This whole attendance thing was ideally designed for the players over in the Japanese community. Because if you read up about the attendance and everything, it was geared towards the Japanese community, and you have to really read that, to understand that it was ideally created for them and not for the American community or North American community and the European community and Australian community. It was ideally created solely for the Japanese community, and now that it's in the game, they're going to make it available to us. And I guarantee you, as this continues to go on with the decor items in which they come out regularly with, like, for example, they came out with this recently, before this, the spring decor items, and then they came out with a special, expansion or promotional package for the Japanese community. And now you have this. And so you had the attendance, which is now going to be available. Because why not sell it to the North American, European, and the Australian communities if you're going to have it in the game anyhow for the Japanese? And I'm seeing a trend where the Japanese are now leading the interests of the Ultima Online development team, and we are now second class. When originally it was the North American and European communities that came, was the primary focus and concern. I don't know if you guys out there, like myself, feel like second-class citizens now in the game of Ultima Online, but I feel like I'm being traded for the Asian market, and I don't know exactly how you guys feel with me on that, but I guarantee you that is why we have attendance right now. It was created for them and not for us, and I guarantee you the Japanese community knew about it and we didn't. That's why it was just like something that was like, wow, that's cool. Wow, why didn't we know anything about this before it came out? How much you want to bet?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, even the spring decor, they only hinted at those items. And I was just reading over on one of the on the forums that it was meant for that box set that's coming out in Japan. The personal attendants were. I don't know. I guess for most of our news on upcoming publishes and additions to the game, we're just going to have to go read the Japanese version of it and hope Microsoft Windows translates, or the browser translates it well enough. The other thing I saw on there today when I read about them is that Origin is getting 5 free personal attendant tokens. Or 5 people are getting a personal attendant token for free for the publish. Is this going to be yet another item that people are going to have to buy? Not that I would ever buy it. It's like the spring decor. There was nothing appealing about it. Sorry, Cat Hat, if you're listening. I just didn't dig the kitty reg thing. But is this another way to take our money? Instead of just the $12.99 a month. What happened to free content? Next Christmas when we log in, are we not going to have Christmas boxes in our bank boxes anymore? Are we going to have, we have to purchase those tokens for our Christmas gifts that year? Go ahead, Vice.
Well, what really upsets me is the fact that it seems to be all about the Asian market, which is fine. I understand EA wants to, reach out to the Asian market. Which they do not have I guess in terms, I don't know if you would classify as a strong presence in currently or not, because I mean technically 70,000 of the 135,000 subscribers to Ultima Online are Japanese players, so they make up more than half essentially. But the fact that they're not trying to do anything to appeal to the North American and European and Australian markets, it's kind of discouraging to me as a player, because it's like, well, you know what I want. I want a pre-UR shard, and I've been griping about this for 6 years, and yet the Japanese community over here, who they're trying to get in the market, over there, they say they want, these nice decorative items and everything, to make their house look more prettier, because they're more society over there is just different. They're more about beautification and stuff like that. They're more in touch with their surroundings and stuff like that. So visual aspects to the game over there is more meaningful to probably the Japanese community more so than the North American and European community. That's just a different culture. And my gripe is that they know what a lot of the Europeans and North Americans want. Why are they not, heeding our wishes? I just don't understand it. It just seems the further we go on, and I'm really curious to see if this next, how many more things we see focused towards Japan. Because I guarantee you, I'm willing to bet that we'll see a lot more of it from here on out. And that's not very pleasing to me, because for a long time we leaded the market, and over here in America, and when I say lead, a lot of people say, well, welcome to our world. This is how the European market got treated for so long. Well, while I can understand that, y'all probably came later down the road in terms of getting these types of content, we were at least in somewhat agreement as to what came in terms of content. I mean, I think there was that general consensus amongst European and American players as to what kind of content we wanted in the game and that we could all agree on. However, you got Japanese culture spilling over into North American, gameplay and European gameplay. It's just real awkward, and it's like a clash of culture, so to speak. And it's just really weird, for me at least. It's just like shell shock. It's like, whoa, what happened to my world?
That's exactly as I saw it this morning, because I saw these posts earlier in the week about personal attendance, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was going to be like a new NPC in the game or something like that, something new in Haven or something. I had no clue, so I didn't even pay attention to it. What I paid attention to is when I saw Pub 41 go into Origin, I went, yes, finally! Can't wait to see what all these big PvP changes are going to be, because I haven't seen them on the test center yet. I guess we'll have to test them ourselves now. And it's personal attendance. And you're right, as I was looking at this now, it is completely a marketing decision is what it was. Basically what it was is, they needed to get this out to the Japanese shards, and of course they're going to pipe it over to the North American and European shards with Pub 41. So it was like the marketing guys just told our developers, hey, you guys, all that PvP stuff you've been promising for months and months and months, put it down, throw it out. We got something more important for you to work on. We got to get these public attendance out so that we can please the Japanese crowds. We got a new box set going out to them, that sort of thing. I won't blame the Japanese market at all. It sounds like they're doing great over there because they're getting all kinds of development work put in, but we're getting nothing in these publishes. I'm just so disappointed when I read that this morning. Go ahead, Vice.
Well, let me just, and a lot of people say, well, where are you getting this Japanese market thing at? And I'm going to actually put a link to where it says the Japanese market. And I'm also going to also read it to you guys, the first, basically, 2 sentences of this link in which I'm about to give you guys. With Publish 41, we will be adding a new feature to the game, personal attendance. They will be first available as part of a SKU available in the Japanese market. Then later will be available elsewhere as a microtransaction. So they're, gearing their focus towards microtransactions, which means selling you content. That's what it basically means. There will be 4 types of personal attendance. The guide, need to find a tailor in Britain, got lost wandering the streets of Vesper. The guide will direct you in the location of your choice. And then the fortune teller. If you need to know what seeing your reflection in the moon gates this morning really means, the fortune teller can help satisfy your curiosity. She'll deal the tarot cards, but the interpretation is up to you. And then you also have the lucky dealer. Got a bit of gold that's burning a hole in your purse? The lucky dealer is what you need. And then you have the herald. From greetings and visitors in your home to following you around in Caesarea announcing, well, whatever it is you want to announce, the herald never loses his or her voice. So here, I'm going to give you guys a link so you can read this for yourself and tell me this is not geared solely towards the Japanese community, because it clearly says it in there, and I'm kind of upset about that. Because I think this is going to be a trend, and get me a porn star over here and promote Ultima Online over here in North America, or get a porn star over in Europe or Australia and promote Ultima Online, and see how many male players you get coming to Ultima Online then over here in North America and Europe and Australia. I guarantee you, if you get some porn stars over here, you might be actually surprised.
Yeah, I can still remember that advertisement now, where they had the porn star for the advertising of the Japanese, one of the last Japanese box sets, I think it was, or the redesign of their website or something like that. You brought up a point about it when you described the different attendants, and one of them is the Herald. And I saw somebody mention it before I could even say anything. It scared me to think. Now, I don't really have to worry about it too much over on Siege because there is not a whole lot of bank sitting going on. But, you poor people over on the production shards, you're not going to be able to even walk through Luna. Now that these people who pawn their wares off in Luna and spam over and over have an attendant doing the same thing for them, they don't even have to be there anymore. They just plop down, 2 or 3 of these guys and just start spamming the entire bank. Picture in your head, 50 heralds standing there in Luna while you're trying to just walk through it or listen to something a friend's telling you. That is just going to be scary. Yeah, it's going to be some real. I don't think it's even struck everybody yet that our Pub 41, the self-proclaimed PvP fix, is going to be personal attendance. Personal attendance. Unbelievable. Anyways, I think you hit the nail on the head, though, as far as what it is. It was definitely marketing. Strictly marketing. So I want to know, has anybody... Okay, no, Vice, before I move on to that next thing about it, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, I'm kind of curious as to what you guys think about the personal attendance, because, after I got done ranting about it, I now want to talk about what I'm interested about it. Out of all these personal attendants, because I'm going to be constructive now, because I just got upset, and now it's time to reel myself back in and say something good about the attendance. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some players out there, who are tuned in to UORadio this afternoon. There are going to be great players or great big fans of these attendants over here. And personally, the ones I'm looking forward to is seeing how they work and, in terms of how they work and everything. I'm kind of interested in this Lucky Dealer and the Herald. Those two things I think could be actually pretty awesome. Well, I guess I can also say that, hell, I'll just say all of them because, they're all kind of unique in their own way. So, I don't really have a need for the guide, but, that would actually be kind of neat, I guess. But the fortune teller would be kind of neat, and the Lucky Dealer and the Herald, they would all be pretty neat because the Herald, I can just say, we're live on your radio. have it say, we're live on your radio instead of having Sandman over there doing it. What do you think about that, Spider?
I like the idea of the Heralds for being used in constructive ways, but knowing my fellow player base in general, I'm just seeing these things going to get just absolutely abused. It's bad enough that parrots lag you down when you run past somebody's house with 50 parrots on their roof. Imagine how much lag these things are going to cause. And I agree with you. It is kind of a cool little idea. I'm just still disappointed that that's what we got with this Pub 41 that I bet you people want about, the hours of their life they spent ranting on the forums and creating customized banners about just say no to Pub 41 and all this other stuff. I bet they want all that time back of their life that was wasted, either cheerleading for it or revolting against the idea of all the changes that were supposed to go in there. And I bet you the developers want back all that time that they spent putting into Pub 41, only to be told, here's the code, pop it in, put it over on Origin on Saturday, folks. But yeah, great. It's a nice piece of content to the game, but I want to know what happened to my PvP fixes. Where did they go? There was no word about it. Nothing. I understand it's Japanese marketing. They're a big market. We must please them, and they're happy sitting there, dancing it around at the bank and over on the Shard or whatever bank they hang out at. But for the rest of us here on the North American, European Shards that are in guilds and PvP a lot and stuff like that, I'm sorry they didn't buy me dinner and a glass of wine before whatting me. So, but and of many other people. Go ahead, Vice.
Well, well, the whole thing is this. I think it's pretty interesting just on how they are going about the whole thing. It's just like, well, it's forgotten about now. The whole PvP changes. You don't ever hear it mentioned anymore. The big thing now is Pump Buster. That's the big hype now. That's the one that everybody's going, no Pump Buster, and then you have a crowd over here saying, give us Pump Buster. And so it's like two different lots over here. You got the Pump Buster crowd, you got the anti-Pump Buster crowd, and that's the big thing now. So I mean, if you want a way to get out of backtracking, so to speak, and kind of put a close to all the discussions about PvP fixes and everything, that's one good way of doing it. And maybe that was a strategy move on their part, to try and backtrack, basically under the radar, so to speak. That's just speculation once again. But, hey, I have to, I like to think that, that's not what he is, but who knows. But, the thing is this, at the end of the day, is that, I'm curious if anybody's going to ask the question, what happened to our PvP balance, changes and everything, come this Wednesday during the House of Commons chat. So if somebody doesn't ask that question, I don't, then they all deserve to be slapped around a little bit and say, why didn't you ask the question, So please, if you're going to be there, ask the question so it can get answered. But then again, we all know what they're going to probably say. Oh, it's still being worked on. We're still working out solutions. I've already given you the solution God knows how many times. Just get rid of item properties. That's my solution.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing myself, actually. I was I feel like I've been bait and switched. It's like they held out PvP fixes to me, and then pulled out their other hand and handed me a little personal attendant, said, "Here, no PvP fixes, but before you get upset, here's this pretty eye candy," and then hoping that we'll all go, "Ooh," and go run away with our personal attendants and play with them. I don't know. I just still kind of like in shock, and I was looking and watching what I like to call our small school bus forums over here on Stratix. The U-Haul, and I just don't see anybody's not even noticing. So you're correct, Punk Buster. I'm going to go with you on the speculation. I'm going to definitely go with that. They're going to be like, whoops, we came up short on this PvP fix. We just can't figure out a way to make it work. So instead of admitting that, let's just pull out this Punk Buster idea, get that underway. That'll get them screaming for 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, I'm at a loss when it comes to this whole thing, to be honest. As a matter of fact, when the show's over, I'm going to go post. I got to ask, hey everybody, over here, look, there's no fixes in the Pub 41. I'll get the troops surging again. Did you just another thing that I noticed that I thought was going to be more make a bigger stink over in the forums was the in the 5 and Friday, they asked about the, what was it, the purchase of Myth by EA.
What about it? Did we lose you again, Spike?
According to... No, I'm still here. I was typing in a URL, my bad. Yeah, I'm more curious about the purchase of Myth by EA. What happens with that? Is that going to affect UO? Is it, or according to, I think it was Wilkie stated it was going to have nothing to do, the two teams are work completely separately, but Myth is another online game. I'm sorry, an online game company, developer. So you just got to wonder what was the idea. They were buying it for the technology in order to implement it into UO. I know I've seen a lot of companies do that. Microsoft does it with almost all their products are purchased from other companies and then developed into their own programs. What do you? Let's make this the day of speculations, Vice. What do you think is going on with that whole purchase?
Well, really, I think what is happening over at Electronic Arts is due to the decline in sales over console games and everything, and a lot of developers being laid off. They're taking these same developers, in a lot of cases, is applying them over to what's working, what seems to be the new booming market that's really taken off real fast. And Electronic Arts over there is sitting over there wondering where did they go wrong, and they're looking at like a gaming company like Blizzard in the online game market and saying, well, why can't we get 6 million subscribers to our game? And they look at what games they got for online games out there, which is, to my knowledge, The Sims Online and Ultima Online being the only two that I can even think of off the top of my head. With both of them games combined, you maybe have 150 to 160,000 subscribers. And I guarantee you, they're probably thinking to themselves, what can we do to boost our online gaming market? And so now you're seeing Electronic Arts shift its attention away from console games, because it's doing so poorly right now, over to online games. And so what they're doing is they're, buying out these gaming companies that, they're doing pretty good and have done really well. And so, for example, they're creating a new online game, to my knowledge, called The Gray Project. And then you have Ultima Online, then you have The Sims Online, and now you have their Dark Ages Camelot. And then I think Dark Ages Camelot owns the rights to Warhammer or something, a game called Warhammer. So, or an engine, I don't know if it's an engine or a game or what, but something called Warhammer, which they obtained the rights to. And they also, I think they're going to make a franchise out of Warhammer, whatever it is, whether it be an engine or a game, I don't know. But, the thing is that, I'm sure they're going to be using all these online games to basically boost their online gaming market. But, my concern is this: how well will they do with all these other online games and what they're trying to come out with and produce and take over and buy out? Because we all know their track record with online games, and it hasn't been a very impressive one. It's been a terrible one, as a matter of fact. For example, Earth and Beyond, which is a game that they came out with 2 years ago, which I so happen to have here in my disc of CDs that I purchased. They actually shut that online game down. And it was like a year or two after it had been up and running, they had to shut that game down. Another online game which they launched and had to shut down was an online game called Motor Cities Online. That's two titles, online game titles, in which they've had to shut down because of poor numbers, results, and stuff like that. Another game title, which is an online game of theirs, which is doing very poorly, but is on life support, what I want to, say, is The Sims Online. The Sims Online, it's got about maybe 15 to 20,000 subscribers right now. It's on life support. And then you look at Ultima Online with its declining subscription numbers. So you have to really wonder, how good is Electronic Arts with managing online games? And if I had to give them a rating, I would give them a D. A D. That's what I would rate him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too much kinder with my grading either. Because, they're really, it just seems to me, I think almost all of the topics we talked about, with the exception of Punkbuster and maybe some of the aftershock of Punk Buster, like the Siege thing we're talking about. But every one of the topics we're talking about today, it seems to be, why are they making this decision? Nobody asked for this. Why are you doing this? So, who knows? And a lot of that goes towards, like you said, to the poor management of a game. Now, you can't set the decision-making entirely into your player base, but people are going to pay and continue to pay if you're giving them something that they enjoy. And this last year, I can honestly say, with the exception of maybe one or two things that have been either added or fixed in the game, and one of them, selfishly, is the PvD fix on Siege Perilous. But everything else, I never asked for. I don't remember anybody ever bringing it up as an idea. I just remember being thrown in our laps and going, hey, you're going to keep paying your $12.99? We just gave you a new toilet seat for your house. But, you're right. Poor management. That is exactly what I'm going at. I'm not pointing my finger specifically at our developers at all, because I know they're not in the big decision-making process. It's the big man upstairs that makes these decisions. But, I don't know. Vice, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts about the whole acquiring of Mystic Entertainment, I think that's what they're called, or whatever. My whole thoughts on them acquiring this new gaming company, which owns Dark Ages of Camelot and everything, and produced the game. My only thoughts is that Dark Ages of Camelot did go back to a classic shard. The way they do have classic shards over for Dark Ages of Camelot. Now, this makes me wonder, now that they have acquired Dark Ages of Camelot, if they might take this team and say, hey, how did you go about, reintroducing, classic shards, and how did it work out for you? Hey, can you tell us your strategies and everything? Because now they can do that. They can get this confidential information, business information, as to how to go about it and everything. And they might very well apply the concept to Ultima Online now. Now, for all you people out there who are, big fans of pre-UR, you'll definitely like that possibility that now with the acquirement of Dark Ages of Camelot, that might very well be on the horizons for Ultima Online at some point down the road within the next year. And that's yet to be to seen or remain to be seen if that's what they ever end up actually doing. So, just keep that in the back of your minds. Or whenever you're thinking about how EA went about acquiring Dark Ages of Camelot,
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I kind of got at the idea that they might have been buying this company specifically for their technology, and the process, as a matter of fact, of doing something like that, or figuring out a way to revert, or, like you said, they went and bought a popular player-based game company versus, their dwindling, slow sink down the drain, which is UO, and implementing it into it. There's always this talk of a 3D UO coming out. Everybody's always asking about when's the secret project. Oh, that got scrapped. So what is it? Well, I'll be honest. There's a good possibility this purchase has absolutely nothing to do with UO at all. But it's just the type of a game company that they bought that kind of makes me wonder, what are you guys up to? And you make a good theory. It could be, how do we get our old code back while not losing any of the fixes, so that we can make these people happy? I haven't heard about a pre-ren demand in a while now. Once in a while, people will toss it into a post here and there going, if you had a pre-ren shard, this wouldn't be a problem, kind of thing. But none of the rants that I used to hear for it. But my stance on pre-whatever shards. But go ahead, Vice.
Well, the whole thing about the rants and everything, advocating pre-UR, that comes in spurts, It's kind of like a fanfare, every now and then you'll have a rally, every so often, advocating a pre-UR shard. So, that comes in spurts and everything. But that doesn't mean for a minute that it's not still there, or the desire for one isn't still there. I was just looking at the subscription numbers for Dark Ages of Camelot, and believe it or not, it's about the same number as Ultima Online. And as of March of 2006, they had a low subscription number of 125,000 players, which is not that bad. And, I mean that's really close to what Ultima Online subscription numbers are. And so, but they've reached a peak subscription number of 250,000, much like Ultima Online did. However, EA purchasing Dark Ages of Camelot for the technology, I don't think that was the reason, because if you ever looked at Dark Ages of Camelot, the graphics are not exactly all that impressive, in my opinion, in comparison to some of the technology what Electronica already has in their possession, or rights to use.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping. There's a couple people in IRC that are basically stating flat out they specifically bought it for Warhammer. But Mr. Luigi makes a point here. UO, yeah, you're right, and you touched on this too. UO has 140,000 subscribers, or accounts rather, and the other one only has 120,000. So. Yeah, it definitely wasn't to merge the player bases, that's for sure. You kind of spooked me when you said you could see them merging UO and The Sims. I've always joked about that in the past because the game was just getting so, non-conflictual in the game. There is no conflict in the game anymore. Why not just slap a skin onto one of the Sims packages and call it Sims Online, the Ultima Online expansion? Where there is no fighting and everybody gets a free pizza oven if they pre-order it for their house. But when you said that, I almost went, whoa, that was kind of sort of creepy. How close to the mark was I with that? I've always said that about Trammel specifically. So, yeah, I mean, I've seen other companies do this before, and very rarely does it ever affect the actual games themselves. The games don't change. When I think Sony purchased a game in a similar fashion, and they didn't touch it. They basically what they did is they stole bits of code from it and put it into their other games like SWG, and I think they own EQ2 as well. So maybe that is what they're doing. I sort of like UO the way it is right now, with the exception of a few things here and there. I'd hate to see it change too drastically. I'm not interested in playing a first-person shooter. That's the reason I don't play WoW. I don't play those very well. And I get busy, to be honest, when I play those games. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to find out the next week that you're going to be playing a game that's similar to World of Warcraft, but it's going to have all the NPCs from Ultima in it. I don't know where we're going to go with that. We'll have to watch that. I still have friends in the investment industry who keep on top of these things. They don't get anything private, of course, that would be illegal, but they do get word of mouth here and there. So based on that, they really don't go into much detail about them purchasing that. All Wilkie really said was the two departments will not have anything to do with each other. So, I guess we just have to take that for what it's worth. And we're not going to really find anything out until EA does something, I suppose, or if anything at all. It could just disappear like proficiencies without a word. So, with that said, I was going to touch on another subject here that was brought up. If I just find it here. I wanted to go back, and especially with you here with us today, Vice, and talk about well, we sort of discussed this a little bit earlier, but I really wanted to get into a little bit more depth with it before we let you go on and talk about the new network that you're working on right now. All the eBay sales right now are outrageous. I mean, I saw gold the other day. I remember last time we spoke to the UO-auction2.com people, I was mentioning how I'd seen gold on eBay for 75 cents per million. Now I saw two auctions the other day, 50 cents a million. 50 cents. Now, is this because of the announcement of Punk Buster? And because I've seen vendors throwing their, tripling and doubling their prices on items in Luna vendors, for example, out of the blue, suddenly. And everybody's going, what's going on with vendor prices lately? And I couldn't help but think, does this Punk Buster got the scripters scared? Are they trying to dump everything and get out before it's too late? What do you think, Vice?
Really, I don't think it's got anybody scared because, I mean, the only things that anybody's got to worry about is if you're going to continue to use your cheat programs after Punk Buster comes in. I mean, you can continue to use your cheat programs all the way up till Punk Buster comes in. And even then, it's not going to be like you're going to get caught off guard. It's going to just simply prevent you from playing the game when you do try to use this cheat program. So it's not, I don't think there's anything anybody's really worried about, like getting banned or anything of that nature. Because, I mean, all it's going to say is turn off this program, which I think, by the way, is stupid. You're going to sit there and pop up a nag screen to tell me to turn off my program? Turn off my little cheat program if I'm a cheater? Good Lord, and that's like, oh, I see you over there with that gun, you better put it away, Yeah, that's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, you know exactly what I mean. That is just stupid. You're trying to nab these cheaters, get rid of them, and yet you're saying, well, you better put your toys away now, But anyways, it's just stupid how they go about, with the NAG program, just saying, oh, you can't play with it running. Well, my question to you is, what is going to happen if I launch Ultima Online first, and then I launch this cheat program after Punk Buster is started? Will it be detected then, or what? That's going to be kind of interesting, because a lot of people are thinking, well, this is just going to see if I have this program running prior to actually logging into the shard. So I'm interested to see how that goes and how that works, and so on. That's my question about the whole thing. It's just stupid, in my opinion, about, saying, well, you better turn off your program. Other online games don't do that. They just ban you. Like, for example, World of Warcraft. But, why would they do that? Why would they just give you a little slap on the wrist and say, turn off that program? It's because I think at the end of the day, they're more concerned about their revenues. And that's why they also want to probably create a shard for these cheaters. So they have a shard they can use their little cheat programs on. I don't know. What do you think?
You got me thinking about that. Makes you wonder, because the bottom buck, because the final buck is where where it's at. What about the people they've already banned for using these programs in the past? What's the possibility of saying, well, now since we've made it so that it's just preventing you from playing and you can't get banned for using them, are they going to invite these people back to play UO? Say, hey, we've got a new shard for you. You can script and cheat and do whatever you want, or you can come back and we'll lift your the count on the warning on your account, and you can play by the rules, and hopefully drag back a bunch of new returning subscribers again. Go ahead, Vice.
Well, as far as banning players and everything, I don't think that's really ever stopped the notorious hackers and scripters and everything else. Because, I mean, just look at hacks, for example. How many times have hacks guild members been banned from the game of Ultima Online and yet keep coming back to the game? And then doing the same exact thing again. How many times has that happened? A lot of times. That hasn't slowed down hacks at all. Yeah, they're down and out for a week or two, and then they're right back in the game under a whole new identity and everything. So it's really interesting. But nonetheless, getting back to your original question about the gold and everything, it's going to continue to go down south until you get all this gold out. You're going to have to quit, making it so widely easily. Make it so easy for people to acquire gold. That is the solution to that whole problem with addressing the economy. But I guarantee you, as gold continues to drop in value, so are the players going to continue to drop along with the value of gold. Because people don't want to play a game where they have to acquire millions upon millions of gold to simply purchase an item or to purchase a house in a good spot or anything of that nature. People would much rather deal with less money than deal with large sums of money. I mean, just look at, I don't know about you. I would much rather be working for less and everything be cheaper rather than working, and making a lot more money and spending millions of dollars for example, let me give you an example. Out in California, everything's much higher. You make more money out in California, but everything's much higher in California. But really, the equation's still the same. Whereas in this case, in Ultima Online, you're working a lot harder, and your money only goes so far, and it doesn't go far enough. So you have, all these rich people with millions and millions of gold, that want, and now that gold is so worthless, well, they got to get, 120 million for their house now, in their items and so forth. I've actually seen a situation where there was actually a bug here a while back and I actually saw it for myself, because I was like, no way, because this person on ICQ said, hey, guess what? I got a check for 125 million gold. One check with 125 million gold printed on it. I was like, no way. That's not possible. But guess what? I said, show me this check, because I gotta see it to believe it. But guess what? He showed me a check for 125 million gold. And guess what? He cast that check and he got 125 million. Actually, what he did, he paged the GM. Say, hey, I got this check here for 125 million. Is it legal? They said, yeah, but you're going to have to cash it. So the GM basically gave him change for this 125 million gold check. 125 of these 1 million gold checks. And guess what? He got to keep every bit of that money because of a bug that he reported.
In that case, looking at it that way, I can see that would be pretty cool. I think I would have, if I were a GM, I maybe given him a reward out of it versus the whole 125 million. It's kind of counterproductive against the crumbling economy as it is by just dumping the money into the game. But yeah, I know that you're talking about the money being so easy to make. I was reading this morning, somebody was complaining because they needed spell weaving to be more effective, because they couldn't use their spell weaving when they went hunting solo on things like the Dark Father and the Peerless. And again, that was another moment where I almost spit my coffee on the screen. I go, what happened to the challenge in this game? And somebody else mentioned that he farms them daily, and he's like, I don't want to have to bring friends along and split the 2 to 3 million I make in a day farming gold. And I'm like you, I have nothing. What I get from my friends who make me armor and weapons and all kinds of stuff like that. I don't farm. I hate farming. I don't want to go farm. I'm not a PVMer. I hate it. I'll go do it with friends for fun, but not for the gold. And I don't want to be stuck in a situation when you're talking about a home costing 125 million. I can't even imagine shelling out that much. I wouldn't even know where I was going to get 125 million gold. I PvP, and Very rarely does anybody, if at all, carry any gold on them. So I'm not going to make my money there. I'm using their equipment that I get off their bodies. So what's somebody like me going to do who needs to go buy a house or buy, something, a nice weapon, which is now 50 million because the gold's gone up so much. Go ahead, Vice.
Well, the thing is this, even if they do address the economy and everything, they can't make these people get rid of the gold, even if it was acquired through illegal means, such as scripting or duping or anything else. Duping they might be able to go after, but if it was scripting they went after, I don't think they can go after the scripting, the scripted gold as easily as they can for the duped gold. So all this scripted gold that's been brought into the economy through scripting is going to remain in there, and people are just going to sit on it until it becomes a value, until it goes back up again, which would probably be the case whenever they introduce Punk Buster, is my guess. So I think that you'll probably see a slight, modest rise in the value of gold with the introduction of Punk Buster, but it's not going to go anywhere and make a full recovery anytime soon. It's going to be years and years before we even see gold ever fully recover, unless they unless they dedicate a lot of time to addressing the entire economic issues in the game, which they're not willing to do by the looks of things.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, dog's barking in the background. I apologize. That's exactly you answered my question. Basically, was what I was getting at. What I want to do finish off our day with is why don't you tell us a little bit? Let's take this last 5 or so minutes left in the show, and why don't you tell us on what you've been up to this last month or so? I think it's been a little bit more actually over there at mmogrradio.com. I get to listen in on some of the meetings and stuff, and it sounds like really neat happenings going on. I'd like to hear about it. I'm sure all these people are getting excited about it too, especially all the WoW users out there and stuff like that. Go ahead and give us the scoop.
Yep. So what we're doing over here at MMOG Radio is basically we're branching out to other online games and everything, and I'm out basically going out towards World of Warcraft, and out towards Second Life, which is the game in which I've been currently playing a lot of it's Second Life lately. So what we're doing is we're basically expanding to serve the Second Life and the World of Warcraft community, because that's where a lot of our DJs have accounts at, and eventually we're even looking at EVE Online as a possibility if everything goes well with these other 2 radio stations in which we're expanding out towards. So the thing is, if we're putting all the framework into place, getting the websites up and running, getting a design for those websites, getting the applications in, reviewing those applications, training them, and training the applicants that we do take in and everything. And in the future, I think you're going to see MMOG Radio being more broader in terms of catering to MMOG games overall, rather than to any specific online game, for example, like UORadio does. Because UORadio specifically caters to Ultima Online players for the most part. Whereas MMOG is going to be interviewing, developers from all kinds of different gaming companies, such as Sony Online and Online Entertainment, Blizzard, and hopefully people from Electronic Arts and stuff like that. So that's hopefully where we're going to try to go with things with MMOG Radio, and we're also going to be interviewing people from community. From the MMOG community, for example, Sir Bruce from MMOGchart.com. I hope to maybe get him over on MMOGradio.com for an interview in the future once we get everything squared away. Also, I do hope to maybe get what's his name, Scott Miller from UnknownPlayer.com, who used to run that site. He used to run an internet radio station for online games, and hopefully we can talk him into coming over and doing some shows on MMOG Radio and stuff like that. I mean, he did live call-ins and stuff like that. And I think that would be very interesting if we could do something like that with him. And so we definitely got plans in place to really implement some creative ideas and stuff like that. And I definitely encourage all you guys to keep an eye on those websites, mmogradio.com, radiowow.com, and secondliferadio.com. And the way Second Life is spelled is the number 2 indie life radio.com. So be sure to keep an eye on those two sites. And if you stick around here for a little while longer, Sandman's going to be coming up with the deal or no deal, since he's pretty much taken over with that role of handling that thing. And so stick around. You have a chance to win up to 10 million gold on the shard of your choice, should your name be called. And I think he has a way of going about doing all that, so you'll definitely want to tune in for all the details on how you can participate and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty much it, Spider. So back to you.
Great. Yeah, no, it sounds exciting. That's why I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about it. Yeah, the deal or no deal is coming up today. Also, he'll be live on the air when he does that, by the way, folks, just so you know that. Just so you know, that is correct me if I'm wrong, Viceroy, that's a weekly thing now, right?
Yes, to my understanding, it's going to be a weekly thing, and I think the way he does it is he pretty much, whenever he goes to these shards twice a week and everything, he basically has people take an in-game book and write their ICQ down number in it, along with their character name and their shard, and basically, you know, with all these books he gets, he basically draws from them, and then he has basically 2 potential candidates, and then it ends up with 1 when it's all done and over. So basically, he has 2 candidates that he then chooses from the shards, and then he basically draws from those 2 candidates, and whoever gets to pick, you know, from those 2 candidates out of the drawing is the person who ends up on deal or no deal. And you have a chance to win up to 10 million gold. You can win as little as 1 gold. It depends on your luck. So, you know, that's how it pretty much works.
Great. I went to a couple of them now, and it's a lot of fun, even to watch the game in progress once he's picked somebody. So don't miss it. Tune in. Stay tuned here. Hang out. The only other announcement I had before I wrap up the show for the day is the Eggman over at Caesarian Tales has got a new cartoon up over on CaesarianTales.com. He's also added his 5th installment of the UORadio DJ wallpapers, so you can get your favorite radio DJ on your wallpaper. It's his own cartoonish caricatures of your favorite DJs. So far he's got 5, Town Drunk, Sandman, Trollman, Amber, and myself. I'm the latest one. Go ahead. I'm sorry, did I? Viceroy, you had something else to say?
I hope I'm not dead-eye, because I don't want to be that old. I know he's out there listening. But yeah. But to basically elaborate on what you just said and everything, I just wanted to say that, you know, Eggman, he's got a forum over on UORadio.com forums in which you can basically comment about some of his cartoons. I think he's going to be posting over there whenever he has a new cartoon available for you guys to basically check out. And the latest one is called The Royal Itch, and it was actually quite humorous and well done. And I think you'll get a good laugh out of it. But it's kind of adult radio. You know, it has some suggestions behind it, but you'll get the idea of the gist of the laugh and what's so funny about it just by reading it. So go over there. If you're using Opera, however, you have to kind of like scroll down on the left to where them links are over there in Tails or whatever, and so, you know, it doesn't have a little scroll bar over there in Opera, which I pointed out to him, so he's going to try to fix that or something.
Good. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of kick out of his work these days, and especially the work he does for us over here at UORadio. I would really appreciate that. So I know the Egg's probably in bed by now, but a big thanks goes out to him from all of us here. I'm I'm going to give you guys a chance to say goodbye, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. Before I do that, I just want to thank you both for being here with me, and Trollman for a brief period of time too. So Vice, go ahead and say your goodbyes, and we'll move on to Spawn next.
All right. Before, just read the ICQ message quickly over there, Spider, right? But yeah. But anyways, yeah, it was great being here with y'all all this afternoon and everything. Just be sure to keep my mother in your prayers and everything. She's still recovering over there in the hospital. She's been sounding better. She says she's been feeling better. Hopefully she'll be getting discharged here pretty soon. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. But I can only hope her, health continues to improve and everything. And I got to, do things like this to take my mind off that kind of stuff because, it's never a good thing to have your mother in the hospital and everything and worry about her all the time. This definitely helps take my mind off that. But anyways, I want to thank you all for having me here, and it was a great time. I really enjoyed talking about the things that we did today.
Oh, we're glad to have you. Spawn, you have anything to say before we wrap up for the day?
Not really. Eggman, Royalist, check it out. It's a good comic, or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, it was good to have you. Yeah, he did a great job with that, and I'll just remind everybody, like Vice just did, it is of an adult nature, so it's probably not something you want your kids sitting in your lap while you're reading. But it is very funny, as all of them are. So with that said, I'm going to wrap the show up. I want to thank everybody for coming and remind you every Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, whether you want to sit in IRC and chat with us about what's being discussed or you want to jump into TeamSpeak and get in here with us. I did post the instructions for doing so on the homepage, and I'll do that each Saturday, just to remind you. But everybody's welcome. It's town hall style, as you heard today. So with that said, everybody have a great afternoon. Stick around for Sandman's Deal or No Deal. And I'm off to go run off to my tournament over on Siege Perilous. Have a great weekend, everybody.